Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be evaluating and exploring USA.gov. USA.gov is the United States of America's portal to the government. Um, Upon first impressions, you can see that the site is very easy on the eyes. It looks user-friendly. Everything is straightforward. There's a search bar, tabs with associated government information, links to social media, and if you scroll further, the tabs are in list form as well. To elaborate on what's contained in the tabs, you'll see that services and information contains topics like benefits, grants and loans, disasters, jobs, registering to vote, etc. Government agencies and elected officials contains information on elected officials such as the White House, state, local, and tribal governments, and federal governments, which includes an A to Z index of government agencies and the branches of the government. And lastly is a blog. So in order to get a feel for the kind of information that's available through USA.gov, I'm going to do a search for college students. All right. And since we're all college students, I thought this was a relevant search. And I just want to show you the kinds of things it pulls up. It pulls up federal student aid, it pulls up college drinking, healthcare coverage, community college, Go Army, student registration, etc. And I think that it's really, really important that if you're going to use a search function on USA.gov, you go in with a plan because you will pull up all kinds of results, especially if the question you're asking isn't clear or direct. All right, now heading back. So I'm really interested in finding out who puts forth USA.gov and who the agency in charge of creating USA.gov is. And I am able to find that through the About Us page. And the About Us page also contains the mission statement and history, as well as a linking policy and scope of search. The mission statement is as follows. We provide trusted, timely, valuable government information and services when and where you want them. So if you want to look up something on, let's say, the USDA, you can do that at 3 in the morning if you so choose. So after scrolling further, I note that it is the U.S. General Services Administration's Office of Citizen Services and Innovation Technologies who is in charge of USA.gov. And after clicking their link, I find on their website that their primary goal is to ensure that the public has a unified experience when accessing information from the government from the web, in print and over the phone. And these are all sentiments that I can agree with and I find reliable. Returning back, I'm interested in finding out the evaluative criteria they use in order to figure out what links are available through USA.gov. And after scrolling, I find their linking policy and scope of search, and this is really interesting to me because this is basically outlining how they determine what links are posted. So I click it. They state that they link to government websites, including .gov, .mil, and .fed.us. They also link to quasi-government agencies and websites created by public sector, private sector partnerships. That's something I'm not very experienced with. And then state and local government sites and some government-sponsored websites. All right, fine. They also link to non-government websites. And they also list evaluation criteria, which I will post in the Weebly. That way I don't have to recite it to you. What's more is, as I scroll down, I notice that they have a section of prohibitions. Now, what's interesting is that this prohibition states that USA.gov will not link to any website that exhibit hate, bias, discrimination, specific religious views, or social agendas. But what was interesting is in an earlier screencast, it was noted that whitehouse.gov did contain some bias, and it is very much linked on USA.gov. What's more is this disclaimer of endorsement. The first bullet specifically states that the GSA and USA.gov do not control or guarantee the accuracy, relevance, timeliness, or completeness of information contained on a linked website. It's interesting to me that the GSA and USA.gov will not take any accountability for inaccuracies found on links that they provide to people both in the United States and out of the United States. I feel as though these websites should be assessed for quality control on a regular basis by the GSA. And now I'm back to the USA.gov homepage, and it can be determined that USA.gov acts more as an almost tertiary source and an index than it does either a primary or secondary source. It does contain some secondary sources, but it mostly links to secondary sources that contain primary sources, if that makes sense. I'd like to end with some final thoughts on USA.gov. When you Google search United States of America, 1,720,000,000 results pop up, and USA.gov is the first website. So it's a great starting point for anybody interested in finding out more information about the United States of America. With that said, the website contains a great wealth of information. So if you don't have a clear idea of what you want to find or a question in mind, it's going to be extremely difficult for you if you're not the most technologically savvy person. And you might end up in a rabbit hole filled with information you don't need and you don't want. Again, to reiterate, I think it's a great starting point, but as USA.gov links you further and further and further and further away from their homepage through other resources, you should always critically evaluate where that information is coming from. And even if even if it is a government source, it's always important to look at that information with a fine-tooth comb.